Okay, well, I came from Tijuana when I was 4 years old. We snuck across the border, and I was illegal for many, many years. But I grew up when we came to Encanto where my grandmother lived. And then my mom got a job. When we came, there was 5 of us. Well, it was actually 5 kids that she had in Tijuana. My sister passed away. Then my youngest sister, well, not my youngest sister, but she was, I think, the oldest sister, but she passed away when she was a baby. And then my mom got a job at a dairy, at Golden Arrow Dairy in Mission Valley, where there was nothing, just a dairy, and I think there was like 3 houses, and they were for the workers, but there was nothing. And she met my stepfather. Then they had 9 more kids, and we lived in the dairy until I ran away from home when I was 15, and I've been working ever since then. My family lived in Logan. My aunts, uncles, cousins, everybody, and this is where I came when I was left home. And I lived in Sherman, which is Logan anyway. And then I lived on Logan Avenue, National Avenue, but then I've lived different areas here. When I was in my 20s, early 20s, maybe about 20, I was a single parent with a daughter, 2.5 years old, and that was when the takeover of Chicano Park. I came down here to Chicano Park. At that time, I was with my boyfriend at that time. Was a member of the Brown Berets. Well, to this day, he's still a member of the Brown Berets. I came with my 2.5-year-old daughter, and we stood on the land while the negotiations were going on. There was like a set group of people that were part of the negotiations with the city and the state, the police, the county board of supervisors, the city council, and so I was just here as a worker. That's what most of my life I've done. Even in my jobs, I worked 13 years at the Chicano Federation, then I resigned because I felt that they weren't actually helping the community anymore, but that's something else. Anyway, so I got a job at the U.S. Grand Hotel as a dishwasher, and I worked there for 20 years as a pantry cook until Saquon came and they were going to redo the hotel, and they laid everybody off, and they were closed up for 2 years, and that was my work part. Since the takeover of Chicano Park, I've been involved, and I've never gone away. I'm still involved. I was always just like in the background working. I started in about 70s taking clipping articles, doing more documentation. Plus I started doing like a daily log. In some of the meetings, I noticed that there was nothing documented. Like somebody could say, well, this happened, and somebody else would come up and say, you're full of bullshit. That did not happen. And so, I don't know why, that's just the way I am, but I felt that you need to have backup of what you say, Just like, I don't like to talk about subjects that like somebody will say, well, can you come and speak here, blah, blah, regarding that. I don't like to talk about things that I don't really know everything, not everything, but, a lot about, because to me, I'm just up there bullshitting, And so to me, I felt that it was very important to have documentation because that's what backs up the history. That's what backs up what you say. I could say whatever I want, but if I don't have the documentation, who's to believe, that's what really happened. So that's how I started. In fact, to this day, I have these boxes full of notebooks that I hate these guys. I have just a whole bunch of notebooks since then. It's like my daily log. I call them daily log, but I guess it's like a diary. And so I can go back and refer to those sometimes, and especially when you're getting older, you're getting my age, you remember, for some reason you remember more back then than you do now, a couple of minutes ago, or who you talked to earlier, That's how it is. But anyway, I started I started doing like this, for example. This is a book that I have put together on some of the things on the mural restoration project. This is just one book, and this is another book of the restoration project. What I did is just started getting I started setting leaflets, agendas. I always took minutes in whatever meetings I went, pictures, whatever. It was, a lot of more paperwork than even pictures because I never really had a camera and all that. But anyway, I started putting things like this together. So I have a lot of these binders where, for example, one on each Chicano Park Day, and we're coming up to 42. I have one on, for example, on correspondence to the Chicano Park Steering Committee from 1970 to this date. I also have one on the meetings, agendas or minutes, notes, whatever. But I have a book on each year for correspondence, minutes, newspaper articles. I started, collecting the newspaper articles, anything that had to do with Chicano Park. So I have also a binder that I collected, And I remember my boyfriend telling me, like, well, what are all this stuff for? And, when we move, where are you going to take all this? I'm taking it with me. I don't care. You can get rid of the pots and pans or whatever. But I'm taking all my stuff with me. Because you're talking about 42 years that I've been carrying all these things with me. And it's been getting bigger and bigger. But, I still have from way back when, and to me it's really important. And I do have a lot of people that contact me via either email, phone, letters, like asking questions about, say for example, the kiosco and what year was it and blah blah and all this stuff. I mean, I ain't going to be able to remember every little thing, but I can go back and I can refer because I have all that information. I have one book that's just on the kiosco. I have one book that's on the placita, and I have the blueprints and everything, that the city did. All the meetings that we went on the retrofit, project, on the Zapata statue. The hassles that we went because of Aztlan, the Aztlan words that are embedded in the park over there with rocks that were Aztlan, because Caltrans didn't want to put it because they got a lot of complaints that we were being racist. And anyway, we got a lot of support and we fought that, and you see that we have Aztlan out there. Same with the Zapata statue. The city didn't want it, but we had to fight for that. Everything in this park we had to fight for. And I have all that documented. The steering committee started back in 1970 in the takeover of Chicano Park. It was like the people that were representing the community in regards to Chicano Park, especially with the negotiations, in getting the park. We're all volunteers. We're not funded by anybody. Nobody. That's why, even like, for example, like all these, like this costs money to get these binders. I didn't buy these binders. A lot of them, I would go, well, first I would go to the Segunda. In the early days, I would go to the Segunda, and I would buy the binders for cents because everybody was after they get rid of them. So that's where a lot of the first ones came. And then there's this place over there on El Cajon Boulevard that, it's on El Cajon Boulevard and not Fairmount, 43rd. And it has something to do with the schools. Anyway, they give out like free chairs, and, you know, things that the school doesn't want anymore. Well, I found boxes of binders. Whoa, it's like, hey, I was in heaven. So that's why these are nice, because they came from over there. So, and I got them free, because they were, you know, it's free stuff that they give out. But anyway, that's how, you know, anyway, so the committee's we're not funded. But there's a reason for that. The reason that we never wanted to get funded is because whenever you get funded by especially any government agency or whatever, there's always some strings attached. You can't do this, you can't talk about that, you can't get involved in this. Well, the committee, we didn't ever want nobody telling us what we could do. We wanted to be totally free. And when we say freedom of speech, we wanted freedom of speech. We don't want somebody to come up to us like the Chicano Federation. I worked there 13 years, so I know there was things that really used to piss me off because they couldn't get involved in, or they wouldn't say because they were afraid that their funding was going to get taken away. You know, that to me is bullshit. You know, that's why 42 years we've been in existence without any funds. You know, we get, you know, donations if we can. The only time that really we even come into any kind of money is for Chicano Park Day. But that is a necessity because you have the insurance, $2,000 that we got to pay just for a one-day insurance. We got to pay for the portable toilets and the sinks for the food vendors. And that's like $1,500 just for that. We got to pay for, you know, like T-shirts, the posters, everything, all the logistics, the permits, all the logistics of Chicano Park Day. So in order to pay for that, what we do is we rent out the spaces for booths. And that's how we pay. We don't make any money, but that's okay. As long as we have Chicano Park Day, everybody had a good time, and it came out wonderful. And we're celebrating the birthday of Chicano Park. That's all that's important. As far as the mural restoration project, back in 1999, we worked with a gentleman by the name of Marty Rawson. He was like a historian. He worked for Caltrans at that time. And he was one of the only ones that ever really came out to look at the murals, to, you know, kind of get a feel of the park itself. Because it was, I think, just before that there was like a project. Well, the governor had wanted all the bridges to be retrofitted in California, and Chicano Park was one of them. Well, not Chicano Park, the Coronado Bridge was one of them. And so Caltrans came to us and said that they were going to be retrofitting the bridge and that they were going to have to destroy the murals. And of course, everybody went, whoa, that's no way, no how. So for 2 years, and that was like about 97. For 2 years, we met with Caltrans, we met with the scientists that works with at UCSD with like earthquakes, and he studies earthquakes and all that. So anyway, we even went on a field trip like little kids and went up on a couple of vans. Caltrans took us to up there, and we met with the scientists and all that. And I wish I would have brought them dang pictures. They brought us like pictures of showing, like for example, the pillar. You know, they put like a round over, like they would have put over that. They would have put a round concrete. It would have covered the whole pillar all the way up, so there would be no more mural. Then we said, no way. So then they brought us some other pictures where they did concrete like on the sides. And we said, no. Everything that they said, for 2 years it took us And we kept saying no, we will not allow it. Until finally that scientist found a way to go underneath the pillars and over the pillars to do the retrofit work. So they went underneath and over, and the only pillar that was even disturbed at all was this one behind us. And on the very, very top, that was messed up. They did mess that up. But they paid Michael to fix it. They paid him money and he fixed the top part, so that's why it looks nice again.
That was Michael Schnorr.
Yeah, Michael Schnorr. And then during the time of the retrofit, because so much of the park was going to be closed, they kind of like wanted to they did a thing of, there was a grant to kind of like pay, kind of like for not being able to use the park. I don't know what you call it, but so they said, well, what do you want to do with this money? So that's how we got the Zapata statue, the marquee, the logo into the ground, the Aztlan rocks, the new sidewalk coming up to the kiosco. And you notice that we asked them to go while they worked underneath, and when they put it back together, they put all, you have the design of the kiosco, and so we had them put it on all the things. Teresa Alvarez designed the marquee that looks like a kiosco, the altar, but of course we couldn't call it an altar, we had to call it a pedestal because, church and all that kind of stuff, which is a bunch of crap. But anyway, it's our altar. So we got that altar with that money, and what else? Yeah, that was the biggest thing was the Zapata statue. That was, I can't tell you right off my head, but I do have a book on it into the cost, but it costs a lot of money. And we got our own artist, Arturo Sainz. We even met and decided what kind of a statue we wanted. And the reason that we wanted Zapata and not somebody else was because to us Zapata was he was a hero because he fought for the land, for the people. And to us, this is land that was always being fought for our people, for the community, and not just this community. And I always say that because a lot of the development in this park, a lot of the people that have volunteered in 42 years, there's been a lot of people that have come, in one time of their lives. Maybe it could have been for months, maybe it could have been for weeks, maybe it could have been for years, that they volunteered their time here in Chicano Park, to help. And so that's why I never think of it, because it wasn't just taken by people equally. I never think of it, well, no, this is just for Logan. It's not. It's for the community, the Chicano community all over. Corky Gonzalez, for example, he was one of our biggest supporters from way back. He came to just about every one of our Chicano Park days. And his family still comes to our Chicano Park days. And they have supported us in any issue in regards to Chicano Park. So, a lot of the people that were here then have moved out and gone to Arizona, Texas, or, other places. But they always, come back. Look at Chicano Park Day. Chicano Park Day, you see people that you haven't seen for, the whole year, but you always see them there on Chicano Park Day. Community, people, in the park. Yeah. Just like the kiosco itself too, That was something that we drew, and they kept trying to, the architect of the city kept changing it, and we kept throwing it back at him. Yeah. Jess Haro, the councilman, he wanted it Spanish. He said, you want Spanish? Go to Old Town, Spanish all over the place. So anyway, in 1999, we started having these meetings with Marty Rawson. Oh, going back to the whole thing of the retrofit. Before they did the actual retrofit, Caltrans sent a gentleman by the name of Jim Fisher to come to San Diego, interview people, check out the park, get the history of Barrio Logan, and do a report on the whole project, the park, everything. He did a really thorough report, and as a matter of fact, the report that I read of his is that I've seen, and I've seen many write-ups and stuff on the park, is one of the most accurate ones that I've come across myself. And he recommended in that report to Caltrans that the murals and the park be eligible for what do you call it?
National Historic Register.
To be put on the National Register. That's, how he felt, about it. And it already is a historical site with San Diego. San Diego, the Historical Society already, and I think that was done in 1980. But and it's more of a national thing. He recommended that the murals and the park be eligible for be a historical site, even though they weren't over 50 years old at that time. Because you have to be, I think, 50 years old or older. Not you, but I mean whatever, the house or whatever you're trying to say is a historical site. But they felt that it was, even though it wasn't 50 years old. It's almost now, but, and this was, we're talking about back in the late 70s, when he did that report. And so Marty Rawson, being a historian as well, he kind of like got involved and started talking with artists and coming even to some of our meetings, and so there was discussion on restoring some of the murals. And you're talking about the year 1999, some of them were already kind of, deteriorating, the ones that were done in the early 70s. So we met with him many times, and and he started writing because he had all the experience. I mean, who are we? We just, we're community people. What do we know about writing grants? So he started writing the proposal. We gave him all the input, information. We even got letters of support from organizations in different places that they needed letters of support. And it was actually to restore as many murals as we could. And that was turned in the year 2000. In the year 2002, it was actually approved. And we had to keep bugging them to barely in 2011 was the first time a brush went up to restore the murals. That's how long it took. That's how long the process is. But a lot of the thing it was too is that kind of held it up was, like people change in positions and stuff, even as directors in Caltrans, the state. And the money is from a TEA grant. I don't even know what the initials mean, but I know it's a TEA grant. And a lot of the people in Caltrans were saying, well, why are we doing this? This is the kind of stuff we do, especially new people that didn't really know the history of Chicano Park, didn't work with any people here in the community, people that were out of the office of Sacramento. Because in Sacramento, they don't come here, they don't work with us, they don't know. And that was a lot of the holdup, and they didn't really want to, think that they didn't think that Caltrans should be doing that. But we kept bugging them. People from Caltrans here locally had to go to Sacramento and argue the proposal for us there in Sacramento until, finally. And So we've gotten to get a better relationship with Caltrans, where they're actually listening to us, because the fact that, I mean, 42 years later, we're here. We haven't gone anywhere. We don't plan to until, you know, the good Lord takes us away. That, you know, after us, other people will be here. You know? So I guess, you know, they figure, well, you might as well work with them, you know, instead of fighting with them, because we did have our good fights with them, you know, just like we did with the city, you know, and still we do fight with the city, because the city, under the mayor that it has now, under the past councilman that we had, I mean, they never really cared about Chicano Park, or even, so matter of fact, the community, because their main thing was developing San Diego, getting money in. The same with that Mercado thing. That's a bunch of crap too, because what they want is something that's going to make money, because that wasn't what was in our original plans. We wanted to make sure that there was a museum in there for the local, you know, history of here in the area, and some kind of like a cultural center. That was part of the plans that we had originally had to have in, you know, as part of that Mercado. Not having a huge market store that's really not so cheap like people are saying, and it's like another big corporation. That's what it is. And the same with, you know, the housing part. You know, there's a lot of new housing that they brought in, but who can really afford to live in them? Why do we have so many homeless around here? You know? So anyway, mission project, it actually started in the year 2008, because we were also part of the hiring process and all that. Not so much as having to say, but having input. I was there when they interviewed the company that they got, their deli. Anyway, so they started getting paid in the year 2008, and they've been getting paid ever since then. But the artist, the first one to put a brush up to the mural was in June of 2011, was Guillermo Rosa, when he started restoring the Chicano Park Takeover mural. And the way we did as far as picking the murals, I did like a call out of the artists, you know, I need help, we need, you know, they told us that there was only enough money to do 20 murals, which they changed later and said there was only enough for 18 murals. And I don't know why and nothing, but that's the way, you know, they said it was. So the only ones that volunteered to help me with that was Sal Barajas and Victor Ochoa. And what they did is they came out and checked, you know, each mural and gave us like a list of the most damaged murals that needed, you know, to be restored. So with that list, then we went around, the committee went and we checked them all out, and so we went with the recommendation. And that's how those murals were picked. There's more murals that do need to be restored, we know that, but you can only pick, you know, so many. So that's how they were picked. And some of the murals, there was like for example, one artist that's deceased, so they had to pick another person to paint that mural. The other ones, the original, it has to be done by the original artist, or someone that is designated if the person is deceased. That was one thing, is that not just any artist could come and start painting. They had to be restored by the original artist. And you have to think too that back in, we're talking about 40 years ago, these murals were painted by artists that just came, volunteered their time, put up, you know, the murals. They got paint. Some was donated. I remember Proline donated a little bit of paint, but some paint came from like underneath their sinks, underneath their garage, or whatever. So so it wasn't really good paint. They didn't have, like sealants, and graffiti guard, all that kind of stuff that 40 years later you do have now. Even the colors, it seems like, of the paints, they seem more brighter now, So now they're being restored into these, just most beautiful murals with the paint, the colors are just coming out and jumping at you and grabbing you and pulling you into, pulling you in. And it's very beautiful. I've been watching the artists, and it was kind of hard of getting them together. Other people, young people that we're hopefully educating more. That's one of the things that why we do these volunteer tours, so that the young people, and we don't do them just for young people, but we do it for a lot of young people, and so that they can know the history, the struggles, working closely with Alberto Pulido and the students that come through USD, and I'm sure that it blew their mind when we worked with them last year and they helped us with Chicano Park Day, because they did not know the things that, the work that went into even Chicano Park Day itself, let alone the daily, maintenance and stuff. Even like, because the city shares a maintenance person with several parks, one maintenance person, with several parks. So there ain't much that they can do. For example, the rose garden, the city doesn't take care of that. Jose takes care of it, one of the community volunteers. He planted the roses, he prunes them. In fact, he just pruned them because he wants them ready for Chicano Park Day. And, takes care of the rose garden. He also goes around cleaning and doing a lot of the stuff that, not just him, but other volunteers, that the city maintenance guy doesn't do. And it's, you have volunteers that keep up the cactus garden, and that's the way the park has been going for many years. And to us, it's not just, and it's something that, like a lot of us, it's been, I should just talk about myself, because everybody, it's hard to talk for another person. Because you can think that that person feels this, but you don't really know. But you know what you feel. But to me, this has been part of my life. In fact, it's been about 3/4 of my life that I have spent here with Chicano Park, volunteering my time for Chicano Park, and I have seen things that I've never seen before. Cultural things that I have never seen before, that have really inspired me, that have really, it just made me feel so blessed that I was able to be part of, that I was even able to experience. For example, water ceremonies. I had never seen a water ceremony before. We've had several in Chicano Park. The last one that I came to is a lot of babies, a lot of babies are baptized, and quinceañera. I see my first quinceañera, which really blew my mind. It was so beautiful. There's people that have been, their ashes, are here in Chicano Park. For example, Jorge Gonzalez, one of our heroes in time. His wife brought some of his ashes, and they're spread around the Zapata statue. Marco Anguiano, one of our members for many years, and his ashes, también, part of his ashes his mom brought and his sisters and put around the Zapata statue. We have one guy that brought his afterbirth of his baby and buried it right under that mural right there. We've had a couple of weddings. We have walkouts. When the students walked out a few years back, they told me that when they walked out, they didn't know where they were going to go. They just walked out and they didn't know the destination. Different schools ended up here in Chicano Park. This is where they all ended up, was here in Chicano Park. A lot of the lowriders have picnics, they have their picnics here. People that have passed away. They've had their their families have their ceremony of their lives here in the park. There's just so many different things, and I've had the privilege of sharing almost 42 years of my life with these kind of things that have happened here in the park, and in many years, and I've seen fights, I've seen everything. I mean, and it's, to me, it's like home base. And on Chicano Park Day, oh my God, it's just so exciting to me, and I can feel like Jose Gomez, I can feel Marco Anguiano, Corky Gonzalez, Yoli. So many people I can name that I feel are here with us on Chicano Park Day, especially, and their spirits are all here with us. And I've even we took a picture of Dia de los Muertos. We took a picture one year in the Cactus Garden, and there was all these things in that picture, and they were like spirits. It was so cool, And building the altars on Chicano on Dia de los Muertos, it's just such a feeling of closeness, with the people.